Welcome to the fourth episode of the How to Make a VR Game in Unity 6.2 course. After learning how to move in VR with both continuous movement and teleportation, it is now time to bring interactions to life. In this video, we are going to learn how to use the Direct Interactor to grab objects in VR. We'll see the three main types of grab, with instantaneous, kinematic and velocity tracking. Then we will go further with dynamic attach and two-end interaction. Also, I have great news to share because the Patreon exclusive tutorial is finally released. This is a VR shooter done in 1 hour, which was the winner of the poll. So if you'd like to learn how to do it step by step and get access to the source code, join us on Patreon, the link is in the description. But without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so we are back where we were left at the end of last episode, and now to add grab interaction, we are going to need to add a XR Direct Interactor to our VR player. To do so, let's select the left hand, right click, go to create empty and call this one left Direct Interactor. Beautiful. Now to create a Direct Interactor, which makes it possible to interact directly with Direct Interactable, we are going to need two components. The first one is a XR Direct Interactor, as you guessed it, and the second one is a Sphere Collider. Now, for the Sphere Collider, it is very important to set it to isTrigger, and as you guys can see, this will define the interaction area of this interactor, and I think that in our case, a value of 0.1 on the radius is perfect so that we are able to grab anything that is within this range. Okay, so now that we have set the Sphere Collider to isTrigger is true and set the radius to 0.1, the next thing we need to do is to set up here this XR Direct Interactor component. For the interaction layer mask, we can disable the teleport. For the indentedness, this is the left hand, so let's set it to left. And we can even go down below and enable the improved accuracy with Sphere Collider, like so. And now the last thing that we need to do is here set up the input configuration, which will basically be the input that we listen to grab and activate an object that we are grabbing. But lucky for us, the Unity XR Interaction has already all of these input configured for us with the grab and trigger button. So for the select input, let's click over there. Let's search for select. And here on this list, we are going to need the XRI left interaction select because we are on the left hand. And then let's do for the next one select, but this time the left select value. For the activate input, let's search activate and click on the left interaction activate. And finally, for the activate input, let's do activate and select the left interaction activate value. There we go. Okay, and basically now we are able to grab with the left hand, but of course we want to do so as well with the right hand. For this, I'm going to select the left Direct Interactor, press on Ctrl D to duplicate this game object. We can drag it under the right hand and rename it Right Direct Interactor. Beautiful. Now what's left is to set the endedness to right here and change the input. So in our case, we are going to set the right interaction select for the first one, the right select value for the second one, the activate for the next one, the right activate for the next one, and the right activate value for the last one. And now everything is done. Oh, except for maybe the second one. I don't know why, but I need to set it to select right interaction select value. There you go. And now everything seems to be good. Right select value, right activate value, and for the left interactor everything is the same. So beautiful. Now all of our input are down and we should be able with these two interactors to grab object with both our hands. But of course we need object to grab, so that's what we are going to do right now. For this, let's right click, go to 3D object, cube, and I'm going to set the X value of this cube to 0 and move it close to the player. Then let's increase its Y value to something like this, maybe. And for the size, I'm going to press on R and increase its size a little bit because as you guessed it, this will be our table where I'm going to put different interactable here so that I will be able to showcase to you the different type of grab interaction that we can have. So let's rename this cube table, and now let's create our first grab interactable. For this, I'm going to right click, 3D object, cube. There we go. We can change its size to 0.1, 0.1, 0.1. we can maybe move it to the side like this. And I want to change its color. So for this, I'm going to right click in the project window, create, material, rename it white, and it's already with a white color, so I can simply drag it over there. Beautiful. Now our cube has a white color, but of course right now our cube cannot be interactable. So let's fix this by clicking on add component and add an XR grab interactable. Beautiful. So as you can see, there is a lot of things on this component. The first thing that we can note is that by adding an XR grab interactable, we also added a rigid body, which will add some physics property to our game object. Now, just to show you a bit the result that we have here before we play with the different settings, let me simply click on play to find out if this already works like this. Okay, and as you can see, it's pretty cool. I can grab the cube with both my hands. I can throw it in the air and grab it back, and everything works super well. And as you can see, something important is going on when I start to grab. Well, the cube snaps directly to a certain position in my hands. This is sometimes a behavior that you want, and that's something we are going to talk more about in just a few minutes by making a gun grabbable. But the big question is, what if we wanted not the cube to snap, but always keep its initial offset when we grab it? So let me show you how we can do this. Okay, back to Unity. When we leave play mode, let me rename this grabbable cube attach transform. There you go. And let me simply select it and duplicate it with Ctrl D. There we go. I can put it to the side. And here I'm going to rename this one grabbable cube dynamic attach. Because what we can do is go down below, and as you can see, there is a use dynamic attach. And as the name suggests, this will allow us to do exactly that, which is take into consideration the initial offset of the object when we grab it. So let me show you the result by clicking on play. And there we go, you guys can see the comparison directly here with the two different types of grabbing system. I think it's pretty cool, and both of them are very important, as we will be able to see for the gun example that we will do in a few minutes. But before, I want to show you another difference that is in the XR grab interactable, and it is the movement type. Now, as you can see on the XR grab interactable of this cube, the movement type is set to instantaneous. This means that this movement type is not using any physics, but just moving the transform position and rotation of the object. But if I click on it, there are different types, kinematic and velocity tracking. So let's compare them by simply select this cube, duplicate it. This one I'm going to rename it kinematic and set its movement type to kinematic. And finally, do it once again, but this time not for kinematic, but for velocity tracking. And there we go, let's set its movement to velocity tracking. And let's click on play. Okay, so here, for our first cube, this cube is using the movement type instantaneous. This means that the position and rotation are using the transform component and set its value instantly to match the controller every frame. It basically teleports the cube to where your controller is, but without any physics. It's more responsive, but there is no physics applied. So it should ignore most collision. That's why if you're looking into physics properties, this second movement is a bit better with here this second cube, which will use a kinematic movement. Basically, it will use the rigid body position and rotation, but set the rigid body to kinematic. It can move other physical objects, but it cannot be moved by other physical objects. For example, if I path this cube through the table, well, the cube doesn't stop and can path just through. That's why there is a third movement which is using again the rigid body, but it remains to non-kinematic. This way here you have the full physical properties that are preserved, and as you guys can see, when I try to move the cube inside the table, it doesn't allow it, which is pretty cool. So there you go, you guys have now a comparison between the three movements. But now I'd like to move on with another example of grabbing, but this time that will also allow us how to activate an object that we are grabbing. And we are going to see this example by making a shooting pistol. So let me show you how we can do this. For this, we are going to need a certain asset on the asset store, which is called the low poly FPS weapon slit. It's basically a 3D model of a pistol and a machine gun. It's completely free, so you can import it in your project. And now, once imported, you can go to low poly weapon slit, prefab, and you should see here the weapon number 1 that we can simply drag over there. Okay, let's move it here. As you guys can see, this weapon already has Mesh Collider, but I prefer to select them all, replace the Mesh Collider by simply having on the weapon 01 a Box Collider. There you go. Now, you know the next step. To make here this game object grabbable, we are going to select here the parent and add as a component an XR grab interactable. Beautiful. With this, similar to our other cube, we should be able to grab this pistol. Okay, as you can see, it works, we can grab the pistol, but unfortunately it doesn't snap to the correct position and rotation. So let me show you how we can fix this. For this, let's leave play mode. And here on the XR grab interactable, we can see down there that there is an attach transform. And this transform position will be able to use a certain offset when we try to grab this pistol. So for this, let me right click in the weapon, create empty, call it attach transform. There we go. And here in our case, I'm going to simply rotate it 90 degrees like this on the Y axis so that the blue axis face forward, the up axis face upward, and the red axis face to the right. Like this. It's beautiful. If you want, you can also change here the position, but I think I will leave it just to this value. Now we can go back to the XR grab interactable and drag the attach transform over there. There we go. Now let's save, and if I click on play, and there we go, as you can see, it works. Now the pistol stabs directly to the correct position on my right hand and facing forward with this new attach transform offset. That's perfect. But now, because this is a pistol, we want of course to shoot with it. So let's see how we can do this with the activate function. Okay, so let me select here the weapon, and something I'm going to do here is simply add a script that I prepared before recording here this tutorial to allow us to shoot with the pistol. If I click on add component, I can search for pistol and it should be over there. Now if I double click on this script, as you guys can see, this script only has one function, which will basically instantiate a bullet prefab and get the rigid body of this bullet to be able to set a certain velocity, and after a while it will simply destroy the bullet. Okay, so if we go back to Unity, what we need to make this script work is simply drag here a bullet prefab over there. Here for my bullet prefab, I'm simply using the bullet that comes with the low poly weapons lit 3D asset. I have placed a capsule collider on the bullet lit 022 and a rigid body on the parent that we need to set a velocity. Then for the fire point, I can right click, create empty, call this one fire point, and simply put this fire point at the end of the gun here with the blue axis facing forward, like so. Looks good to me, so let's go back to the parent and set the fire point over there. And finally, we even have an audio clip that we can play when we shoot, so let me drag here this gunshot that I've added. Now this pistol component is ready, but now of course we need to be able to call this fire bullet function when we grab the pistol and that we activate it. And for this, I'm going to go to the XR grab interactable, and down below, there is the interactable event. And as you guys can see, there is a lot of event here for when we start overrings, when we start grabbing the object, but there is also some event when we activate the object. So for this, let me click on the plus, drag our weapons, go to pistol, and here call our fire bullet function. This means that if we are grabbing the gun and pressing then on the trigger button, we will be able to fire a bullet. So let's find out if this works by clicking on play. Oh, okay. And as you can see, it spawned a bullet, but there is an issue here. Down below, there are no audio source attached to our weapon, which I totally forgot. So let me leave play mode. And here on the weapon, let's simply click on add component and add an audio source that will allow us to play the clip as well. And now if I click on play, as you guys can see, it works. I can now grab the gun and shoot when I press on the trigger button. So everything works super well, and as you can see, this shows you how you can use objects that you are also grabbing. But I want to go further than this, because if we go to the weapon, then on the XR grab interactable, you can see that for the select mode, there is a multiple select mode, which might mean that we can grab object with two hands. So let's see how can we make that happen. And for this, I'm going to go back to the low poly weapon, prefab, and here we are going to use this second beautiful weapon over there. So let's simply drag it in our scene, I'm going to move it up like so. As always, I'm going to select all of the different parts, remove the mesh collider. And yes, maybe let's select just here this weapon 02 and add a box collider like so. Now let's go to the parent, add an XR grab interactable. You know the deal now. Let's right click, create empty, create an attach transform. Let's set its rotation to -90. There we go. And we can put it where we want, like this maybe. Now that the attach transform is done, we can go to the XR grab interactable, drag the attach transform for the first attach transform. This way, we are going to be able to grab and snap this weapon directly to a good position. But that's not it. We want to be able to fire with it. So let's add a pistol script to it. We can drag our bullet. For the fire point, let me right click, create empty, call it fire point, set its rotation to -90 and place this point at the tip of the weapon. Yeah, like this should be good. Now we can go back, drag the fire point over there on the second parameters. And for the clip, let's drag the audio clip that we have, as well as an audio source this time that we are not forgetting. Okay, beautiful. Oh, and last but not least, if we want to be able to shoot with the pistol, let's go at the end, and for the activated, let's drag our pistol, set the function to be pistol, fire bullet. Now, if we save and click on play, there we go. As you can see, we are able to do exactly the same as before with the simple pistol, with now here this new weapon. So everything looks good, but there is one thing that we want on top of all of this, and it is to be able to grab this second weapon with 2 hands. So let's see how we can do this, and it's going to be much simpler than you think. Because if I go back to the second weapon, now here the trick is to set the select mode not to single but to multiple. There we go, and now if I go down below, you can see that the attach transform is set for our first attach transform, but there is also another which is called the secondary attach transform that we are going to use. For this, let's select the attach transform, duplicate it, and call it secondary attach transform. I'm going to place this one over there near this part of the gun. Now we can go back to the parent and drag the secondary attach transform, and it should be it. With this, we should be able to grab our gun with 2 hands. So let's see how this works by clicking on play. And just like this, as you can see, it works pretty well. So the gun will simply follow the position of my right hand as well as the orientation of my right hand, but then it will point at my second hand so that I'm able to control this weapon with both. That's pretty cool, but that's not the only thing that's possible with 2 hands with the XR Grab Interactable. Because, as you guys can see, when the play mode is activated, there is a new XR General Grab Transformer component that is added to here our Grab Interactable object. And actually, this object takes some default value, but if you want, you can override this value of the component if you want to. So let me show you how we can quickly do this. In our case, I'm going to select here this grabbable cube dynamic attach, the second one that we made, and press on Ctrl D to duplicate it. And I'm going to rename it grabbable cube dynamic attach 2 hands. Now we can put it to the side like so. And what I'm going to do is actually press on R and increase its value on the X-axis. Beautiful. Now if we go to the XR Grab Interactable, I want to be able to grab this cube with 2 hands, so I'm going to set the select mode to multiple. Now if you guys remember, down below we have the attach transform for the 2 hands, but if you want to, you can also grab object without attach transform with 2 hands. For this, we simply need to override the grab transformer. So let's simply click on add component and add an XR General Grab Transformer. There we go. We can click on the plus button over there and drag it as the multiple grab transformer. And basically at this point, you can mess with all of the settings over there. In my case, I'm going to leave everything as is, but you can tweak, for example, the translation constraint. And what I want to do is actually go here and not allow the one-handed scaling, but allow the two-handed scaling and set the scale multiplier to 1. So let me show you what this will do by simply clicking on play again. And there you go guys, as you guys can see, I'm able to grab the cube with both my hands without any snapping like it was the case with the machine gun before. But most of all, because we were able to override the XR Grab transformer settings, we can also scale the cube with our 2 hands simply by placing them close to each other. So it's pretty cool. And there we go, just like this, you guys have seen 7 types of different grabbing interaction that you can do with only one component, the XR Grab Interactable. And there we go guys, we now have a complete grab interaction system working in VR. I hope that you enjoyed this video and learned something new. In the next episode, we look at more advanced interaction with a socket interactor, doors, lever, poke, and if you don't want to miss it, don't forget to like and subscribe on this channel. Also, the Patreon exclusive VR shooter is now live. It's a VR game made in just 1 hour and you can get access to it right now by supporting my work on Patreon. Thank you for watching till the end and as always, see you soon. Bye bye.